A forgotten letter leads Leo down a path of buried secrets, unraveling a truth he never expected. Welcome to Echoes of the Past. Leo had never been fond of going through old things, but something compelled him to look inside the dusty box of family relics this time. He sifted through yellowed postcards, old photographs, and childhood drawings. And then his eyes caught a small folded note tucked between the pages of an album. Unfolding it, Leo at first didn't pay much attention to the words, but within seconds, his heart clenched. It was a love letter. It began simply, "My love." The handwriting was painfully familiar. It was his wife's, Danny's. Leo read the letter several times, feeling a chill creep down his spine. It spoke of secret meetings, regrets, and, most disturbingly, the intention to leave for another man. A cold wave washed over him. He couldn't believe what he was reading. It was impossible. Their marriage was strong, full of love and trust. Or had he just been blind to the obvious? The sound of footsteps snapped him out of his daze. Danny entered the room and saw what he was holding. Her face first showed surprise, then mild confusion. "What's that?" she asked, nodding toward the letter. Leo looked at her in silence, trying to read something, anything on her face. Guilt? Fear? But all he saw was genuine bewilderment. "It's your handwriting," he finally said, holding out the letter. "Do you want to explain this?" Danny took the note, scanning it with her eyes. True confusion spread across her face. I didn't write this," she whispered. Leo crossed his arms over his chest. His heart was pounding. "But it's your handwriting, Danny." She read the letter again, then shook her head. "I really don't know what this is. I've never seen it before." Leo didn't know whether to believe her, but the feeling that there was something bigger at play had already taken root in his mind. The reality of their life, so certain and peaceful, was now fracturing in front of him. Leo sat on the bedroom floor, holding a yellowed envelope in his hands. His heart was racing, and his palms were slightly sweaty. He wasn't prepared for this discovery. The envelope had been buried deep in a dresser drawer among old papers that his wife had kept for years. He didn't even know why he had gone through them. He was just looking for a charger. But now, in front of him, lay a letter that seemed like it was never meant for his eyes. He ran his finger over the rough texture of the paper, feeling the indentations left by time. Questions swarmed in his mind. Why was it here? How long had it been hidden? And most importantly, who was it addressed to? His gaze shifted from the neatly written name on the envelope to the door. Danny was in the other room, completely unaware of what he had found. Swallowing hard, Leo tore the edge of the envelope and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. His fingers trembled as he began to read. "My love, forgive me. I can't live this lie any longer. My heart is torn between duty and feeling, but I have made my choice. Tomorrow, I will leave. I hope one day you will understand me." Leo read the lines over and over. The words cut him, burned him. It didn't make sense. This was his wife's handwriting. This was her letter. He closed his eyes, trying to calm himself. Maybe it was an old note, something meaningless now. Maybe it was just a draft she had never sent. Or had she really planned to leave? His chest ached. He remembered their conversations, their little arguments, the times she seemed distant. But he had never imagined it could go this far. He traced the edges of the paper with his fingers, as if hoping it would reveal more. His thoughts raced, but none of them brought peace. Footsteps, light, almost silent. Danny entered the room, smiling. "Did you find the charger?" she asked, oblivious to his tense expression. Leo slowly clenched the letter in his hand. His breathing grew heavier. but he forced himself to stay calm. He needed the truth. We need to talk. Leo sat in silence, trying to process the revelation. He didn't know what to feel. Relief that his wife hadn't betrayed him, or shock at the realization that the letter belonged to his own family's past. Questions swirled in his head. Had his mother been unfaithful to his father? Who was the man she wanted to run away with? And why had the letter remained unsent? His fingers trembled as he unfolded the letter again. The ink had faded slightly, but the words were still clear. Every line burned into his mind, leaving invisible scars. "My love, forgive me." Leo ran his finger over the words, as if trying to feel the emotions his mother had poured into them. There was pain, regret, and determination. What had she been like back then? Young, in love, ready to take a reckless step? He looked at the old photograph he had found in the box. His parents stood side by side, smiling, as if there had never been any secrets between them. Had they truly been happy? Or was that smile just an illusion, carefully crafted to hide a chasm of unspoken words? Leo took a deep breath. He needed answers. He couldn't just leave it alone. Danny sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Leo." He looked up at her. There was no deceit in her eyes, only concern. "This letter, it was written decades ago. It's my mother's handwriting." His voice was hollow. Danny froze. "Your mother? But why was it among our things?" Leo shook his head. "I don't know, but I have to find out. There was only one person left who could shed light on this mystery: his father. If the letter had never been sent, if his mother had stayed, something must have stopped her. But what?" Leo sat in the kitchen, staring at the letter as if it could give him answers on its own. His thoughts raced chaotically. How was this possible? Why didn't Danny remember writing it? Or maybe she was lying. He reread the lines again, searching for some kind of clue. The handwriting was hers, the words were hers, but something felt strange, as if the letter belonged to another era. Was he imagining things? Could stress and exhaustion be playing tricks on him? But how could he explain finding this letter among his mother's belongings? Leo ran his hand over his face and sighed heavily. Memories from childhood surfaced in his mind. His mother, so caring and loving, always smiling, always finding time for him. He had never noticed anything strange about her, never heard any talk of scandals or betrayals in their family, or had he just refused to see it? Children often see only what they want to see. What if he had been living in an illusion all his life? Danny walked into the kitchen, looking at him with surprise, then at the piece of paper in his hands. "What's wrong?" she asked, stepping closer. Leo looked up but didn't answer. Instead, he pushed the letter toward her. She scanned the words, and her face slowly paled. At that moment, he noticed how her fingers nervously clenched into a fist. I didn't write this." Her voice was uncertain, even slightly fearful. "But the handwriting, it's yours, Danny?" His voice was hoarse with tension. She grabbed the sheet, rereading it over and over, as if trying to find something that would make sense of it. Leo watched her carefully, hoping to catch the slightest sign of deception, but all he saw was genuine confusion. "I really don't remember this," she whispered, looking at him helplessly. Leo remained silent. He didn't know what to believe. He loved her, he trusted her, but what if she was hiding something? And then a thought struck him, one so absurd, yet so unsettling, that he hesitated before speaking. "Danny, are you sure this is your handwriting?" She frowned, looking at him as if he had asked something ridiculous. "Of course it looks like mine, but I swear I didn't write this." Leo's heartbeat quickened. If Danny hadn't written it, then who had? He reached into his pocket and pulled out something else, a photograph of his parents, the one he had found in the old album. Flipping it over, he showed Danny the back. "Look at this." She took the photo hesitantly, her eyes scanning the faded ink. Then her expression shifted from confusion to something else. Unease. "This handwriting," she whispered. Leo nodded. "It's the same, isn't it?" Danny swallowed hard, glancing between the photograph and the letter. "Leo, this isn't my handwriting." He exhaled sharply, his chest tightening. "Then whose is it?" A cold realization settled over him. There was only one answer left, one that made his stomach twist. "It's my mother's." Danny's eyes widened slightly. "Your mother?" Leo nodded slowly, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know how I didn't see it before. The letter, the handwriting, the way it was hidden among her things. It's not yours, Danny. It never was." Danny let out a slow breath, relief washing over her face, relief mixed with lingering unease. "Then why does it look so much like mine?" Leo didn't have an answer to that, but one thing was certain. This mystery had only just begun. Leo knew that the only person who could shed light on this mystery was his father. After much hesitation, he dialed his number, but his fingers hovered over the screen. The last time they spoke was over a month ago, and that conversation had ended with a displeased sigh and a curt, "Take care." But now he had no choice. "Hello?" His father's voice was steady but slightly hoarse, as if he had just woken up. "Dad, it's Leo. I need to talk to you." A few seconds of silence, then a heavy sigh. What happened? "This isn't something I can say over the phone. Can I come over?" "Come." Leo parked in front of his childhood home. He didn't need to ring the doorbell. His father was already waiting for him on the porch, leaning on the railing. Age had left its mark. Deep wrinkles, gray hair, tired eyes. But there was still a restrained strength in him. "Come in." They entered the living room. The house smelled of wood, old coffee, and something else. Something faintly familiar, like the scent of a past he once knew but had long forgotten. His father sat in his favorite chair, crossing his arms over his chest. "You found the letter, didn't you?" Leo froze. "You knew?" The old man tilted his head slightly. "Of course." Leo pulled the folded sheet from his pocket and placed it on the table between them. "Who wrote it?" His father looked at the letter, then at Leo. Something strange flickered in his eyes, not just weariness, but a shadow of, what? Sadness? Guilt? "It's from a past that should be left alone." Leo felt anger rising within him. "Dad, I need to know the truth. Who was this person?" His father lowered his gaze. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." The old man lifted his eyes. "Are you ready to hear it? Ready to live with this knowledge?" Silence hung between them. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, but Leo didn't hear it. All he felt was a heavy weight in his chest. "Tell me." His father remained silent for a long time before finally saying, in a slow, detached voice, "That person disappeared." Leo clenched his fists. "What do you mean, disappeared, left, died, or—" He didn't finish, but his father understood. "Just disappeared." "Did you do something to him?" His father abruptly stood up from his chair. "I loved your mother, Leo. Loved her in a way you can't even imagine." "So what? Does that justify everything?" "You don't understand. Sometimes the past should stay in the past." Leo gripped the letter tightly, staring at his father. His voice was strained, but there was a plea in it. "Do you know where he is now? What he's like?" His father remained silent, his gaze empty, as if looking through Leo into something unseen. Then slowly, distantly, he said, "He's just gone." Leo shuddered. There was no anger in his father's voice, no regret, no sadness, just a dry statement of fact, as if that man had never existed. Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Leo had too many questions, but he wasn't sure he wanted the answers. He looked at the letter again. Now it seemed distant, almost insignificant, or maybe the most important thing he had left. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments.